Boys and girls, when I teach my kids to tie a knot at the end of a string or at the end of two strings connected, I think about the letter U. Now, I can cross that over and turn it into a letter O. This O is a loop. So I can pick up this loop of string like this, and these tails are going to come behind. When I push them behind, I poke them through the hole that was just created. Now they're poking out. If I pull those strings through the hole starts to get smaller and create the knot. I'll show you that again. Make a letter U, cross it over. Those ends are on top of that string. This has created a loop. I pinch it in my fingers, and I can press that loop through. Excuse me, not the loop, the ends through the loop. Do you see how they've just come through from the back to the front? As I pull, if I need to scoop my knot down, I can slide my knot like a fireman's pole, and I slide down. Did you know that you can actually do this on your finger as well? You take your finger, wrap it around your string around to make a letter U. Do you see the U at the end of my finger? I do. Then cross it over and use your finger to tuck it through. I have found both strategies are helpful. It's really just going to be what you like to do with tying knots on the end of strings. I'm going to show you the finger again. I'm going to make a letter U, take the ends, and twist them through the loop that I've made. I slide my finger off so then I can take my fingers and pull. All right, now we're ready to attach some toppings. All right, hey artist, we've got our pizza sauce. I trimmed mine just a little bit so I can center it around the crust, thinking about how it might be sliced. I like to bring mine down so I still have a little bit of a handle for my crust. Here's a finished example. Now I'm gonna get some string. I've got different colors. I like to think about using string that would match my sauce, but you may enjoy actually being able to see your string bright against your colors. So choose the color that you want. Pull the string until it reaches from your hand all the way to your heart with your arm stretched out. That's a great length to begin with, and then cut. We're going to thread our needle. This is the eye of our needle. We're going to take our thread and we're going to press it through the eye of the needle. Some sewing artists can get it the first time. Some artists take many times. Either way is fine. Once you have it through, you're going to pull those ends to match. Here's the thing. If you don't get this the first time, please do not put your spit on it. If you need to smooth out the threads, if you need to fold it over and poke just a little bit of it through, that's fine. Whatever you need to do to get it through. Sometimes poking the loop through is something that works for me, and then I pull that excess. But please don't put your spit on it because we do share these needles, and if one kid is using the spit in one room and that spit from the string gets on the needle, and then you're using that needle and your spit gets on that string, and then who knows what. We got a lot of germs passed around, so let's refrain from using spit. I'm putting my needle right here, poke it into my fabric so it doesn't wander and become unsafe. And I'm getting the ends of our string. Again, we've just threaded our needle, and now I have the ends. To tie a knot in the end, I'm going to make the letter U, but I'm going to take it around my finger. You can see a letter U is going around my finger. I have both of the ends in my hand, letter U, then I'm going to cross my strings over and pull them up through the middle. Once I have them through the middle of that loop that I made with my finger, I pull it and I have a knot. Now it's time to sew on our pizza sauce. This is the very first step, and I do want you to start this way by sewing the top of your pizza sauce first, because sewing the top will keep it from wiggling sideways and getting your sauce misaligned. We're going to begin by placing our needle from the back, going from the back to the top corner. You start on the right side or the left, it's okay. And as you pull your needle through, your string might get tangled like mine, and you just gently work to untangle it. If your sauce wiggles, put it back in the place that you want it to be, and then keep sewing. In my mind, let me show you what I can visualize. I'm imagining that I'm going to have my stitches go across this way, just like this line. I'm imagining that then I'll keep going down all the way. You'll notice I'm not on the actual edge of the sauce, but instead I'm just to the inside. When I'm done with that, I'll come up so that all three sides of the triangle sauce fabric are secured. Okay, so we're going to start sewing this sauce on, and I switched to a yellow string because it's easier to see for the camera and for you as learners. I've marked where my stitches are going to go. This is what my brain sees, what my imagination sees. You don't have to mark your stitches, but it could be helpful. I'm going to come up from the back. I've got my needle threaded. I'm going to pull until my knot stops my string. My knot is not large, so I'm not going to pull too hard, but I'm going to wait and I'll feel it pull just a little bit. I'm going to go over to the other side of that mark. This is how I'm going to begin my stitching. Top to bottom, and I bring my needle back up in that spot. I bring it over. As I'm pulling up, I'm going to look to see if that stitch is laying flat. A stitch that is not laying flat would look like this. It has a lot of extra loops. I want to pull that snug, not tight to rip the fabric, but I just want it to lay flat. So that way I don't have any gaps, and that I know my fabric is sewn tight against the other brown fabric. Some of my artists, when they're sewing, will get so excited about sewing that they'll pull it flat on the front. Then, as they come up from the back, they'll come like this and then start again to sew. But look at the problem. We have a lot of extra back here. So instead, if you see that extra, finish pulling that stitch flat, looking back to front, front to back, checking both sides of your work to make sure that your stitches have been pulled snug. All right, the first part of your sauce that you're going to stitch is the top, that flat part of the triangle, so that your sauce isn't wiggling side to side. Helps secure it as you get going. I'm going to work my way around as you get started, and I'll check back in with you when I'm done sewing the sauce on. All right, so I've been stitching around my pizza crust, and something has happened that I want to show you. I'm getting ready to almost finish these stitches, and my string is just about all gone. The way I think that it's almost gone is because it's slightly smaller than the size of my hand. For you, you might think it's all gone when you see this much, but here's the thing. This is how much we're going to need to really tie our knots. So when I start seeing that string get shorter than my hand, especially if it's the size of my finger, I want to get my needle to the back and grab a pair of scissors. Here's what I'm going to do. I lay my needle down safely. Make sure you keep up with it. We don't want to lose our needles. Then I'm going to come to the eye of the needle right before it, and I'm going to cut my string. This little scrap, we just pull out and throw it away. Attach your needle so it doesn't roll away. And now we have our two ends of string. I'm going to separate these. Then I'm going to tie them like shoes. I'm going to cross these over, make an X, and then just bring one through that hole. Once I bring it through the hole, I'm gonna tighten it down. I'm gonna repeat this step for a double knot, and then I'm gonna rethread my needle and finish stitching. This is how you finish a string, whether you've run out of string and it's smaller than your hand, or whether you're ready to stop and change colors. All right, hey artists, so we're gonna start building our pizza. The first thing I think about is how I have our sauce in the shape of a triangle. So now to build our pizza, I'm gonna add some cheese. Today I chose to make it into a large triangle shape, but also be able to leave a border so I can see the sauce ingredient as well. Then I'm going to make some toppings. I've got some scraps of fabric felt, and I'm thinking about what I enjoy on my pizza. The first thing I think about is I like green bell peppers, and I definitely like more than one. So let's work smarter, not harder. Fold your fabric over if you want to make more than one topping, and then cut with the layered fabric so you end up with 2 ingredients at the same time. These are long, so I think I even want to cut them down. We're going to sew these toppings on, so I encourage you not to have more than 4 of an ingredient, unless you're limiting yourself to just a couple items, but I'm going to do some more. Before I started the video, I used the same technique of folding over, layering my fabric, and cutting out a shape to get more toppings. I'll show you. I have pepperoni, use some circles. I have pineapple. I am the person that likes to have pineapple on my pizza. I think it's really yummy. And I like to lay these out until I get it just the way I want. Alright, so these are the toppings that I've picked for mine, and we can approach attaching these in a couple different ways. Number one, you could use fabric glue to glue these smaller pieces onto the cheese, and then sew your cheese onto your whole work. You could sew each piece on to the cheese and then sew the cheese on, or you could sew each piece on through the fabric as they're sitting here right now. I'm going to choose that third option today. I'll get my needle threaded and get back to sewing. Alright, so I have my needle threaded. I have my knot tied at the bottom. As always, whenever I'm doing the applique stitching, my knot is going to be on the back, so I'm going to bring my work up. My cheese and my toppings are not secured right now, so I may find that I prefer to take them off to the side and do one at a time. But felt is also kind of sticky. They like to stick to themselves. So I'm coming from the back, and I'm just going to start with one topping at a time. It won't take a lot of stitches, maybe 3 or 4 stitches per topping. It really depends on how large you've created your work. Some of my little sausage pieces are rolling around. I am choosing not to stitch around the outside of my shapes of my toppings. They're so small that actually doing just a line of stitches down the middle will be enough for this project. Because I'm done with the pineapple, I'm going to move over to my next closest shape and just work my way down. I'm working on my green pepper. And something that I've noticed is that the cheese triangle has moved just a little bit. So when I'm done with this green pepper, I'm going to adjust to make sure it's the way I want. I can keep checking on it. As I sew, I make sure that I also have flat stitches. This would not be a flat stitch. There's a lot of excess. I pull gently until the stitch is flat. Adjust that, and then I'm going to continue over here. I'm going to speed this up, and then we'll look at it when it's all done. Okay, so it is time to stitch this closed. I have folded my pizza and I'm making sure that my lines or my edges are matching, and I'm going to sew down this side first. I'm going to wait to sew my top because that's going to be our opening for the stuffing. So I've anchored at the back and I'm going down, doing this straight line running stitch that we've been working on. And notice that I'm not too far in. My stitches aren't really touching that sauce, but they're also not touching the very far edge. I'm giving a nice margin or gap. I'm working to have those stitches be the same size, have the same spaces. The more stitches that you use, the tighter it will be. So just work your way down. All right, artist, I have finished sewing down the side, the open side of my pizza. I still haven't sewed the opening at the top because that's where we're going to get to do one of my favorite parts, which is stuff with a fiberfill stuffing. Looks like a big old snowball or teddy bear. Go ahead, and when you go up to my box of stuffing, I want you to get only a handful. It's going to feel like you're holding a snowball. Bring that back to your table and lay it down. You may immediately feel like you just want to stuff it all in your pizza, but I want you to actually pinch off a cotton ball size. Place it in, and then use the pencil. Use the eraser and press that down into the bottom tip. Press gently. We don't want to bust any stitches, but we're going to press that in until we can feel it come to the very bottom part of your pizza. Otherwise, it will be a little flat flap that will probably miss being stuffed. All right, so it's all the way down in there. I'm going to take another cotton ball and keep going. Repeat the process. You won't have to poke as much. It doesn't take a lot of pressure, but this way you have a well-stuffed pizza. Now that those tiny parts are filled, I can take, again, cotton ball size and keep going. And just if you've been to a make your own stuffed animal place, you put the filling in until you've got it the way you want it. This is a little baby pillow. I'm almost there. Pulling off one little piece at a time is helpful because it doesn't feel like there's just hard chunks of fluff in there. I'm going to stop right here because I want to have an edge big enough that I can squeeze it together and sew it up. If I were to fill it all the way, I wouldn't have any room to put my stitches. So I'm going to stop here, and then I'll sew just like I did here. By holding it together, I'm going to start, again, knots on the back. I can pinch this together with my hand, bring my knot, and then go back and forth, front to back, back to front. Feel free to adjust as you keep going. You may need to check to see if your fabric is lining up the way you want it to. Pulling it, even having a neighbor hold it steady could be helpful. All right, so we're going to stitch this up. Again, you can use a buddy if you feel that it is more of a challenge for you to hold your fabric together. I'm even going to move my hands down as I go. If you get sewing and you feel like there's too much fluff and you're struggling to seal your edges, to press them together, take some of that stuffing out. It's okay. You're still going to have a super wonderful comfy pillow to celebrate and maybe have along with stuffed animals. If you collect stuffed animals, it could be a fun thing to have in the car. This will be a great piece of art. All right, I'm going to work to finish this up, and I look forward to seeing your projects finished. When you get to the end of your crust, you're going to remove your needle by cutting it off the string, and then tying it like we have all the other times in this project. I'm really proud of you and what you've accomplished. Remember, it's okay if yours looks different than your next door neighbor's, if it looks different than mine. We are all different artists. So of course, our art will be different. All right, happy making, artists.